here at Boson, and today we'd like to talk to you about the CISSP exam. And if I can get the acronym right, that is the Certified Information Systems Security Professional, right?
That's it. You got it.
And this is a little different than some of the other exams that we cover. Tell us a little bit about who would the typical exam candidate be, and how would they approach this particular certification as opposed to others?
All right. So the CISSP is not your typical entry-level exam. It is typically for experienced IT security practitioners, managers, and executives. So ISC Squared, who runs the CISSP program, says that you need to have 5 years of verifiable work experience in at least 2 of the 8 CISSP domains. And this doesn't mean that you've got some years of studying it and some years of messing with it at home. 5 years of work experience.
Right.
Now you can have a 4-year degree, and that will satisfy one year right, of those experience requirements. So you would still need 4 more years of work experience.
Now, how do you verify that those years of experience that are required?
So whenever you submit for endorsement, you will send in your resume, and then you will have a verified person who has already gotten an ISC Squared certification to endorse you, and then that will cover your experience requirements. Now, you can take the exam if you don't have experience, but you are going to be called an associate of ISC Squared until you have that required experience. So if you don't have the experience, you can either do that, or you might consider doing the SSCP, which requires only 1 year of experience across the 7 SSCP domains. Or a bachelor's or master's degree in a cybersecurity program will cover that experience requirement.
Is a letter from the employer, does that work? Is that a possibility?
If you don't have if you don't have someone to endorse you, that is someone who is already certified, then you can submit your documentation to ISC Squared, and for a fee, they will actually endorse you just by reviewing all of your credentials. And in that case, yeah, everything that you've gotten from your employer, your resume and everything, that will help. And they will probably call, all of your work references to verify that you have got that required experience.
So once you have met so these requirements must be met before you can even sign up for the exam. Is that correct?
Actually, nowadays you can sign up for the exam, and then after you have finished, you can submit for endorsement.
So you can take the exam, but you will not be awarded the certification unless you have completed the endorsement requirements.
Exactly.
Then, right?
Exactly.
Got it. So how do you go about actually signing up for the exam? This is not a inexpensive exam. There's a little bit to it, right?
Yeah, so you sign up for a schedule, time, and location on the Pearson VUE website, and the cost will vary by location, but it's typically around $750 United States dollars, and you can convert that to euros or pounds sterling and get approximately what it's going to cost you. So, and then you will go and take the exam at a Pearson VUE testing center.
We're signed up for the exam, and we're ready to go in and take the exam. What is the exam experience like, and how might it differ from some of the other IT certification exams that some of our viewers may have had experience with?
So when you go into the Pearson VUE testing center, it's going to be a 3-hour adaptive exam. Now, normal exams are considered linear exams, where, if you answer a question correctly, you're going to earn so many points. And if you reach a certain number of points by the time the exam ends, then you've passed the exam. Adaptive exams are a little bit differently. They act a little bit different in that they will get harder as you answer questions correctly, and it will get easier if you answer incorrectly. So the exam is going to gauge your experience level by how difficult those questions can get, and you can still answer correctly. Um, Here's an interesting thing I found on ISC Square's website. It says that nearly everyone will get about half of all questions correct. And the reason for this is because they will ramp up that difficulty level until you can't bear it anymore. And then you start answering some incorrectly, some correctly, some incorrectly. And so people who will pass the exam, they feel like they've gone through the ringer because it's going to be difficult for them. And then people who fail say, oh, it seemed pretty easy, but I just didn't pass. Well, that's because those questions get easier and easier. And the only ones they answer correctly are those low difficulty questions. So
if the questions start to become more and more challenging, that could be taken to mean a good thing, right?
That's a very good sign. So if the exam is beating you up, rest assured, that's a good thing. So the key is to not panic.
Right.
So as soon as the exam has determined that you are 95% certain to pass or fail, the exam will end somewhere between 100 and 150 questions. It will not end until you've gotten to 100 questions. So let's say that you are on the low end and you're at 100 questions. If it could end immediately and you possibly end up failing. And so that's not a good thing. So just because the exam doesn't end at 100 questions does not mean that's a bad thing. That means, hey, you haven't passed yet, but you also haven't failed yet. So you need to just stay the course and focus on all of those questions until you get to 150. And as soon as the exam thinks that you are 95% statistically likely to pass, you will go ahead and get that passing score. If you go go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, would you consider this to be a more technical exam, or are there more managerial and business related questions? How might we gauge that?
So most of the questions are going to be more of a managerial nature rather than a technical nature. Now, that said, there are plenty of technical questions that are just purely technical questions on this exam. As you and I probably both know, the best IT managers actually have IT experience. So you can't, the worst thing is an IT manager that knows all the buzzwords, but just understands none of the technology. Someone like yourself with a lot of IT experience, you are a fine IT manager, I must say, being my direct supervisor, because you understand the technology. You understand that, certain things, certain technical processes take certain amounts of time or require certain things before you can even implement them. Well, on the CISSP exam, you are going to be looking at things through the eyes of a manager or a supervisor or a business owner. But you have to understand the technology before you can truly be a good manager with these things. So if you go the full 150 questions, the exam is going to check your previous 75 questions just to see if you're above that passing standard. So when you answer these questions, make sure that you're answering these from a managerial point of view. You want to get into that manager mindset. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. I know we've got some questions lined up for that later on.
As you wrap up the exam itself, is there some feedback, a score report, or do you get some sense of what you did well and where you might have been weak, just in case you have to go take it again? Hopefully not, but
absolutely. So the score report will say that you have provisionally passed or that you have failed. If it says you've provisionally passed, everyone worries, oh, it says provisional. It's not really a pass. Well, don't worry. This is normal. Your exam is going to be checked by ISC Squared for any sort of statistical anomalies before you're granted the certification. And so you're going to be sent your official result by email. They're not going to give you any sort of numerical score. It's just going to say pass or fail. Your score report will actually provide you with your proficiency level for all 8 domains, which is going to list it as below, near, or above proficiency. So one of the common myths about the CISSP certification is that you have to achieve above proficiency in all 8 domains. And this is not true. According to the ISC Squared website, you do not need to achieve above proficiency in all 8 domains. So if you don't end up passing the exam, that's okay. You can retake the exam after 30 days. Then if you fail again after 60 days, then again after 90 days, but you can have no more than 4 attempts over a 12-month period.
Got it. So we've talked about signing up for the exam, taking the exam. We've talked a little bit about the endorsement process. Is there anything else we need to talk about there? I think maybe we've covered that, or any other tips?
Right. So the endorsement application is online. You have to be endorsed by someone who is ISC Squared certified and in good standing, and someone who can vouch for your professional experience. So, and like I said, if you don't know anyone, you can submit additional documentation, and they will review your qualifications. So, a percentage of all applicants will be audited. This is a normal process. So just because you're audited, don't assume that there's some discrepancy or that you did something wrong.
Right.
So after you've taken the exam, you have to complete that whole endorsement process within 9 months, or you've got to go all the way back and do everything all over again.
So with a lot of the other certifications that we talk about, whether it be Cisco or CompTIA or Microsoft or whatever, you have to recertify every few years. How does that work in the CISSP world?
So in order to stay certified, you have to submit 120 hours of continuing professional education courses every 3 years. Now, this could either be courses or it can be reading they've got a magazine that you can read to give you a couple of hours every month. I can't remember exactly how many hours, but you can do that. You can submit your certification studies. And if you get certifications, that will give you a certain number of hours, but you have to do that every 3 years, submit 120 hours worth. You also have to pay a $125 a year annual maintenance fee. If you're an associate, you'll only pay $50 a year. And if you fail to maintain those CPEs or AMFs, which is the annual maintenance fee, you're going to be required to pay a pretty expensive reinstatement fee and any of your outstanding AMFs before you are reinstated. I believe it's a $600 charge to be reinstated. So
got it.
You don't want to, in addition to all of those fees, so you don't want to let your certification lapse like that. So
stay current.
Absolutely.
So we've talked a little bit about I guess we're coming at this from the practice exam angle. We have an XM Max practice exam that covers the current CISSP. We also have a courseware product, right?
Right, exactly. So with the courseware, it's approximately 700 pages long and covers all of the CISSP domains and provides some tips on how to think like a manager, which I spoke of a little bit before. With the XM Max practice exams, usually we give 3 structured exams for certification exam practice. For the CISSP, we give 5 structured 150 question practice exams. Now, we do not test adaptively. We cover the full range of topics so that you can answer the easy ones and the hard ones, because if you accidentally drop down into the easy section, you're going to want to know how to answer those to get the questions back up into the difficult zone. And we're going to quiz you the full 150 questions so that you can practice taking a full 150 questions over a 3-hour period. If the exam ends early, so be it on a live exam, but we want to fully pressure you with the full 150 questions in our product.
So our product runs the gamut from the easier questions all the way to the hard stuff.
Exactly. And like I've said in other videos, if you study all of our explanations, even for questions that you can answer correctly, you will be well prepared for the exam. Know why the right answer is right, why the wrong answer is wrong, and in what situations that wrong answer might actually be a better choice.
Right. That's kind of our mantra. The goal is in the explanations, not in just memorizing the answers to the questions.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the practice exam. We've got a courseware product. How and what sequence would you recommend that prospective CISSP aspirants would use these products?
So like we had mentioned on our previous videos, I would recommend starting with the courseware first and going through that. There are going to be a couple of questions at the end of each section just to get your feet wet with everything. But when you think you have studied enough, I'd recommend jumping into the practice exams, taking exam A, going through, and after you've taken the exam, read all of those explanations, study those domains where you're weak, then take practice exams B, C, and D. Don't take that last final practice exam until you want one final test to see whether you're ready for the real thing. And you don't, a lot of people don't know, you don't have to take them in letter order. You can just, choose your favorite letter and go for that one.
Sure.
So
absolutely. So some words of wisdom. We've talked about a lot of things from signing up to the exam to preparing for the exam, using the courseware, using our exam simulations, our practice exams. What other wisdom would you pass along to someone that's wanting to achieve this certification?
So one of the most important things is to think like a manager or a business owner and not like a tech. Don't just automatically jump towards fixing the technical problem unless the scenario requires it. And that's where the reading comprehension is important, for reading over the entire scenario and finding out what the question is actually asking you to do. If it asks you how to fix the problem from a technical standpoint, by all means, fix the problem like a tech. But otherwise, you want to make sure to focus on A, keeping people safe, most importantly, B, keeping the business operational, and C, if you've got the other two down, make sure that the business is profitable, pretty much in that order.
Got it. So someone taking this exam, should they be concerned with the number of questions that they're presented with? We talked
Absolutely
about getting
not,
the hard
yes.
answers, getting the hard questions, getting the easy questions. Should the number of questions that you are presented with, is that something to be concerned with?
A lot of people, when they get to question 101, they immediately freeze up and go, I should have passed at 100. And they take it really hard on themselves. And they're like, and then they get super nervous that the exam has gone over 100 questions. Don't worry about it. This is normal. If you're, plus, if you're doing well, it's supposed to be really hard and you're already frazzled by this point. Just take a deep breath and focus, because the worst thing you can do is get distracted from all of the small details in those questions. Like I'd mentioned before, if you go the full 150 questions or run out of time, the exam is going to check your last few questions. I believe it's 75 questions it's going to check to see if you are consistently above that passing standard. So it's more important that you do well than just rush through and answer all of the last few questions quickly. Because what's going to happen is, if you just go through and just answer C for everything in the last, let's say you're running out of time. If you go through and answer C for everything on the last 10 or 20 questions, you're probably going to end up failing the exam, because the exam's going to look at those last batch of questions and see if you've been consistently passing. So slow down, read the questions carefully, and go through one step at a time, even if you're running out of time.
Absolutely. Michael Aldridge, Senior Content Developer at Boson Software, subject matter expert in CISSP and many other areas. Thanks for your time. And I think we've provided some good information for folks that might want to achieve this certification. So thanks to all our viewers for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, engage with us in the comments below in this and any of our other videos. If you have questions, if there's any way that we can help or assist as you pursue your certification goals, please let us know. We're here to help in any way that we can.
Absolutely. And look me up on Reddit, Boson Michael on Reddit, and you'll find me on the CISSP sub forum, as well as several others such as the CCNA, CCNP, CompTIA, and CEH sub forums, subreddits. I'm on there all the time, answering questions as I go. So
absolutely. And you provide a lot of valuable help to customers and just everybody that is achieving or working to achieve these certifications. And we appreciate you. And I know the folks out there on the forums appreciate you as well.
I enjoy it. So
all right. Thank you, Michael. And really appreciate your time. And we'll see everybody back on the next one. Thank you.
Absolutely. See you.
Okay. Bye-bye.